about dynamic host configuration, or DHCP. So the definition says DHCP is a protocol that provides a quick, automatic, and central management for the distribution of IP address within the network. It also used to configure the subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server information on the devices. You know, we have two types of assigning an IP address to our network or devices. We have the static and the dynamic. The static, you have to assign the IP address. Mostly we call it the manual. You have to assign the IP address manually yourself. You have to type it, give IP address, you type your subnet mask, and you type your DNS, and you type your gateway too. So in this DHCP, the system will assign it automatically. In this lesson we are going to learn. Somebody may ask, how does it work? How does it work? Let's see how it works. DHCP server issue unique IP address and automatically configure other network information. As I said earlier, it gives the IP address the uniquely to a specific PC. In most home and small businesses, your home, the Wi-Fi we use at home, the computer we use at home, the DHCP server or DHCP router assign an IP to our router. If it is office, maybe we may use a server. The lesson as we started, we are going to configure a DHCP on our Windows Server 2012, as we have been doing so far, putting a lot of configuration on this server. So today we are going to continue to configure a DHCP on this server so that it can assign an IP automatically to the users. You remember when we create this, we created a client which is Windows 10. We assign an automatic or manual, we assign a manual or static IP to this Windows 10. So today we are going to configure the DHCP, which is automatically going to assign an IP. Then we are going to remove the manual IP we give to this PC. The other day we created the domain and we created the organization unit. I posted it recently. So fast forward, let's go to the server 2012. So first, let's check our IP. What is our IP on this server? It will be 1.12. IP config to know your IP. So it's 1.12. So let's see. To assign a DHCP role, we have to add it through the server management. So here are the ones we add the other days: DHCP, DNS. So let's go to our management. So our management, add rows. In adding the rows, you click next before you begin. So rows based on fixtures based installation, so we choose that, we maintain it, we click next. So this is our server IP address, selected the server pool. So let's go next. So here we have to select a DHCP, so we have to add it. The other day, this is how we add Active Directory and other things. So the same procedure for adding a DHCP server. So let's go next. We go next. So DHCP server. So you can pause and read this, or if you are doing yours, you can read it. It's just some definition and explanation over here. Okay, let's read. It says the dynamic host configuration protocol allows the server to assign a less an IP address to computers. So we have explained most of these definitions, so let's continue next. So here we come. Restart the destination server after request. So we will tick it so that after everything to do what. Let's install now. So I'll be pausing this video or this recording because it will take time to install. So let's pause. I'll be back soon. You could see the features installation is going on. So pause again. So it's about to complete. So if it's complete, let's see. Configuration require installation succeeded. So we have to close it. I mean, it's done. Let's see. Yes, it's done. DHCP complete. It completed successfully. So let's go to tools so we can find DHCP over here. We can find DHCP here. It's open, so we can click on, let's enlarge it. Let's enlarge. This is our domain username, SamLab, if we remember the beginning. So we click here. We have two IP version 4 and IP version 6. So we enlarge this one. You see, we enlarge the version 4. So after expanding, we are going to configure the IP version 4. So this is configure the DHCP server. Before you configure DHCP server, issue an IP address, you must create a scope. So now we are going to create a scope. So right click on the IP version 4, then you choose new scope, click on new scope, the wizard, new scope wizard open, click on next. This is name and description. You have to provide an identified scope name. You also have the option of providing a description. So what name should we provide? Let's give it SamLab. So next, so here you have to enter the IP you want to use. The IP we are using, you have to assign it a range of an IP, begin from where and end at where. So from there, your system will automatically start distributing those IP to the system. So the subnet mask, in the definition we learned that subnet mask will be added. So this is our IP, this is our subnet mask. This is my home router. So exclude, we have to exclude some IP address. So let's try that one too. Which IP should we exclude? Yes, exclude an address or range of IP address that are not distributed by the server, or delay is the time during by which the server would, you know, those IP address, they are delayed by the system. They don't distribute them, they keep them for a purpose. You get me? So that is the exclusion. So let's assign some exclusion IP address and see the beginning and the end, how it will look like. So this is the process. We are still in dynamic. So this is the delay time, subnet delay. So let's click next. So this is the hour, this is less duration. You know, less duration, mostly we leave it like this. It show should typically be equal to the average time the computer is connected to the same physical network. If I connect my computer or laptop to a network and this DHCP assign an IP address to me, it will keep it for this number of days. This is 8 days and hours, minutes. So let's leave it and continue because it's practical purpose. So yes, I want to configure this option now. This is configure DH, this is the option. So let's go to, this is a router default gateway. Router default gateway. So we can decide, we have to add our router default gateway. So here, your router default gateway, you have to check your IP address, your system IP, then you assign it to the router IP, your default gateway, then you click next. You see, so here it brings you to, this is a domain name, server name, you have to add. So in this scope, this side, dynamic name services, we have to give what? The server DHCP. The server IP address is already there automatically, but we have to add other DHCP that the server can take. That is 8.8.8.8. So let's add it. The valid DHCP server is running on this. The process can take some time due to it's not valid. Okay, what happened? Okay, let's give .8.4.4 the validation. So we add it, so we add automatically. Take some time, network traffic. So do you still want to add it? Yes. So we can move them up and down, up and down, up and down. If we want this one to be up, we can put it down. So let's go to next. Okay, Win server. Here we are not going to configure it. A computer running a window can use Win server to connect the BIOS computer name IP address. So we are not using any Win server, so we are going to continue. That is next. Yes, I want to activate this scope. So you have to activate the scope at this stage. So once it's done, we are going to continue because you have to activate it before a client can receive a DHCP IP address. So let's continue. Complete the new scope plus we are done. So let's expand it. We can see our IP here. Let's expand it. We can see the new IP we assign. They are showing here. They are showing here. We can add the less reservation. They are all there. The scope. So we can see this is the router IP, DNS. We can see everything here. So let's continue to see whether it's working on. So after all this, your address, this is the IP we have assigned. Let's address reservation. I don't know whether I should do it now. We should wait. Reservation 2 is not anything. You can right click, new reservation. You can reserve an IP whereby I said we reserve some IP for purposely. We normally use them for our router printers. That is whereby we reserve an IP. Those are not distributed as DHCP. So for your understanding, that is it. So this is our address pool. So now we are going to our client PC to see. Let's refresh whether this IP we have given are working now. So this is the router IP and this is the DNS we have given. So let's go straight forward to our client PC. This is our client PC. Let's log in. Let's log into our client PC. Our client PC is open, so let's see which IP is working there. Let's see which IP is working on our client PC. IP config, so it's 1.10. so let's see whether it's being assigned manually or statically. So let's check our IP, change adapter settings. So we right click, property, we have to type the admin name before we can have access to this. Admin password before we can have access to this, the IP. So we need to log in with our admin password. So it's open, then we see property. So these are the IP that is assigned automatically. IP that are assigned not automatically, manually. Use the following IP address. So we are going to choose address automatically, then we see what will happen. Admin password again, administrator. So let's remove this IP by giving it automatically IP address. So let's see, the system will assign a different IP. So IP config, it's now looking for it. So let's see, let's wait for some time. Yes, as we can see, the client is not having any IP. So now we remove all the IP for the DHCP to assign IP automatically. So let's see whether it can assign an IP. Let's see, first it was 10 dots. Let's see IP config. Okay, the system assign an IP, which is one is enabled. I forgot, first you should have checked. You'll see that it's disabled, but now it's enabled. So the system assign this IP address for us, this one. So okay, thank you, see you in another video. Like, subscribe, share with your friend. You could see all the DNS we give. This is the two DNS we give. This is the server name, SamLab. Yeah, this is our DHCP server IP. This is a gateway, so it's working. So in this way, you may not have to assign the IP one by one. So come in, let's learn, share with your friend who may need this. Samtech_basic. See you another time.